Finally, a significant upgrade from an Insta360 camera. Meet the One RS 1-inch 360 edition. And yes, 1 inch means 1-inch sensors. It's got 2 of them. And this helps it produce the best 360 video quality yet from a consumer camera, as well as matching the image quality of the other top virtual tour 360 cameras in 2022. Is this the 360 camera we've all been waiting for? Well, you'll find out by the end of the video. So obviously this is a follow-up to the recently released One RS, and it's different to the previous 360 build of the camera in 6 ways. Number 1 is the price. Bigger sensors equals bigger price. It's $799 for the full build of this camera. Is that price worth it? I'll discuss that in a bit. Number 2 is the modular build design. Before it was a rectangular GoPro-like build. Now it's vertical and it's more like the shape of a conventional 360 camera. And even though it's thicker than most other 360 cameras, I do like this form factor. So you've got your vertical battery, you've got the One RS core, and the brand new 1-inch 360 edition lens. And yes, those are Leica f2.2 lenses. This is definitely a great addition to this camera, despite them being smudged pretty easily due to the bigger size. And inside this bad boy, we have our 2 1-inch sensors. And this leads to a big improvement in photo and video quality, as you'll see soon. Here's how you take the lens off. I find it a struggle at the best of times. And your micro SD card is there, so you'll need to take it apart to access that. Otherwise though, when the camera is fully assembled, you can access your SD card either wirelessly or by connecting it to your computer through this USB-C port. I'll link the camera below if you want to check it out and see the various builds that you can achieve, and I'll also cover compatibility later in this video. The 5th way the 1-inch 360 edition differs from the original 360 edition is 360 video resolution. Before it was 5.7K, now it's 6K. I know that doesn't sound like much, it's only 0.3 of a K, but because of the new bigger sensors, the video quality looks much more than just a tiny upgrade. Then finally, the photo resolution has also been boosted from 18 megapixels to 21. Now let's look at some footage. Welcome to my backyard. Here I am walking up the Opera House steps, and that looks really good. When you look around in all directions, there's no noticeable soft areas, there's no noise, there's nothing that looks bad about this video at all. You can even zoom in a little bit and you've got quality there. I don't need to talk about stabilization, by the way, because as always, it's like basically perfect and nothing's changed. So it definitely passes the test in slightly overcast conditions. Now let's compare it to another 360 camera. What would be a good comparison for this? I think the One RS original one that came out like a month ago. So here I've put the original 360 lens side by side with the brand new 1-inch sensor 360 lens. And at first, this looks similar, right? But then when you zoom in a little into the sky, I'm noticing a fair bit of noise in the sky with the original 360 edition, and there's next to none in the 1-inch. And that is a pretty noticeable difference. This is without a doubt one of the strengths of the new 1-inch edition is it has very low noise in all situations. Flipping it around now and looking at the Harbor Bridge, and wow, there is a big difference in quality here. They look like 2 completely different cameras. The 1-inch edition is so much sharper if you look at the movement of the waves, and even the lines across the Harbor Bridge are much sharper on the right-hand side. And this isn't just 0.3 of a K sharper. This looks legitimately several Ks sharper. So is the quality better? Yes, it absolutely is. Also, something else I want to point out is at this point, the new 1-inch edition doesn't have HDR video mode, whereas the previous One RS does, which means I was able to get slightly better dynamic range shooting with the previous 360 edition than the new one. That said, they probably will add HDR 360 video soon enough, so if they do, I'll let you know. Next, I moved around with it a bit, and yeah, again, so much sharper with the 1-inch edition. It almost makes the original RS look blurry in some parts. I think overall they're both performing extremely well, but the 1-inch definitely takes the cake. Okay, here's a flaw I want to point out, and that is the lens flares. So as you can see with this side by side, the lens flares each camera produces looks pretty different. The original RS has a red lens flare, whereas the 1-inch has a clear or maybe slightly blue lens flare, which I guess you could say is an improvement. I know some people get annoyed by them, and it's unfortunately one of those things that is inevitable when you're shooting with 360 cameras. You got to point the lens into the sun, and most lenses create a lens flare from doing that. Although I have found since the lens is bigger than it was before, it will flare a bit more often than usual. I found with mixed lighting, it performs really well. Again, because of the big 1-inch sensors, it handles the change from bright to dark to bright pretty nicely and doesn't really have any noisy areas or extremely overblown highlights, and shooting in auto exposure mode creates a pretty seamless viewing experience when it comes to consistency of exposure, especially if it's during the day. If it's at night, that's when I'd suggest exposing your shots manually. Speaking of low light, here's a low light shot, and that looks awesome. I set the exposure manually here, and yeah, that's really, really good. And it's low light scenes like this that this camera can really thrive in. Because of those 1-inch sensors, it can see really well in medium low light. And as a result, you have a mostly noise-free video. Just to really show you the difference here, here's the previous 360 edition versus the 1-inch edition. I use the exact same manual exposure settings, yet on the right-hand side, it looks not only sharper, but the colors are better, there's less blotchiness, and most importantly, less noise. While there is some, it's nowhere near the level of the original 360 edition, which admittedly is pretty poor in low light. Here's a static shot, and again, same thing, less noise, better colors, sharper image, more definition. When you zoom in on the rain, it looks so much better with the 1-inch edition. And this is actually a really, really decent low light video. And while the original RS is okay, it's usable, it's nowhere near the level of the 1-inch. Now I know a lot of you were expecting 8K 360 video with the new Insta360 camera. And while I still think the phone and computer hardware needs a bit more time to be able to easily edit 8K files, I just want to remind people that there are some 8K cameras out there that look terrible. It really isn't all about the specs, about the resolution. It really is about the sensors, the image quality, the lenses. And as I said, I feel like this definitely does look sharper than 6K. So let's call it 7K. It's halfway between 5.7K and 8K if you're going off the look of the footage. So there you go. You'll need to keep at least half a meter away from the seam line of this camera or face the consequences. I found stitching at the bottom of the shot to be okay, but it will likely stitch out your hand if it's too close. Even here, I've got it around half a meter away, yet it's still cut off. So when using it on a selfie stick, you'll need to overextend it just a little bit. Okay, maybe not that far, but like this much. I'm here outside Sydney Opera House. It's a little bit windy, a little bit noisy, but how do I sound? So the sound is about the same as what it was before. You're using the same core with the same mics on it. The only difference is this time the case is designed differently, and from my tests so far, it doesn't do wonders for the sound, so I probably wouldn't record any important sound internally. You can use a mic adapter though, and something like a Rode Wireless Go or another kind of microphone. The 1-inch is, I feel dirty saying 1-inch. The new Insta360 camera is not waterproof, unfortunately, but it is water resistant, so you can tolerate light rain or snow, but don't push it. I'm sure they will release a waterproof housing for it in the near future. Next, let's talk about 360 photo quality, and yay, there's finally been an improvement here. Not only the 18 to 21 megapixel jump, but again, because of the new sensors, it shoots much better raw images, which actually have quite a bit of flexibility in post. Here I reduced the highlights a fair bit, and these shots are really, really editable. I don't know if it's quite on the level of the Z1 editability, but they're the most editable Insta360 files to date, which means, you guessed it, it is definitely, absolutely a contender for a virtual tour camera in 2022. Here it is side by side with its 3 biggest competitors right now, and whoa, it's holding its own, that's for sure. And as someone who is obsessed with virtual tours and image quality, I've got to say the first thing that caught my eye amongst all these shots is that the new Insta360 camera has almost no noise. The Z1 is quite noisy after using the dual fisheye plugin with 9-shot bracketing. The Theta X is not noisy, which is one of its strengths, and the Trisio a little bit. But when you put the Insta360 next to the Theta X, there's definitely less noise in the Insta360. Wow. I wasn't expecting that. The next thing I noticed is sharpness. When you look at them all side by side, the Theta X is the sharpest. I'd say the new Insta360 is probably second, and then Trisio third, Z1 fourth. But the big one to me is dynamic range. How do these cameras compare? Well, yeah, the Z1 wins. Followed by the Insta360, followed by the X, followed by Trisio. I can see what Insta360 are doing here. They're trying to beat the Z1. They've succeeded in some ways and failed in others. At the moment, one of the ways they've failed is with dynamic range, because the Z1 with the dual fisheye plug-in is still the best method. This may change in the future, but right here, right now, the Z1 is better. Going over to another window on the other side of the house, and same thing, Z1 has better dynamic range, 1" second, Theta X third, Trisio fourth. But the Insta360 definitely competes. That's not bad dynamic range at all. And I would say that it beats the Z1 in other ways, like purple fringing. This is one of the biggest flaws of the Z1 right now, and the Insta360 camera has the least of all 4 of these cameras. So that's something to keep in mind with workflows, is you'll need to remove it with the Z1, you won't with the Insta360. Now I'm looking at the blue photo underneath the window frame, and it looks best on the 1". I'm gonna stop being a child now, I can say 1". I think it's got about the same amount of sharpness as the Z1, but due to having much less noise, it appears sharper. Then surprisingly, the Theta X is softer, and that's because its flaw is it's soft around the seam line. So after looking at these side by sides, absolutely, the Insta360 1" 360 edition is 1000% a contender for a virtual tour camera in mid-2022. It beats its 3 competitors in some ways, but not all, and no doubt with future firmware updates will get closer and closer to meeting them, if not surpassing them. I do think this will be an awesome social media camera as well. The dynamic range in the HDR shots is really good and should produce high quality 360 images in most situations. I feel like I need to mention software and workflows, but I also don't, because they haven't changed. Everything's the same as it always has been. Now let's talk compatibility. If you already own the One RS, you can use the same core with the new build. You'll just need to buy a vertical battery, the 1" 360 lens, as well as the case to hold it all together. This will be slightly cheaper than buying everything again from scratch. For those that own the original 1R, yes, you can use the original 1R core with the new 1" camera. Again, you'll just need to buy these 3 things. You won't be able to use the previous 1R vertical battery or horizontal battery with the new camera, unfortunately, because they're the wrong size. Finally, let's talk about the price. It's $799 US. Is that worth it? Well, yeah. It is. I think it's important to analyze it for price against other cameras with similar capabilities. I'd say the Z1 is probably the closest. That's still $1,000. Then you have other 360 cameras like the QCam Enterprise at around $2,000, maybe the LabPano Pilot 1, and for the quality you get with both photos and videos, $799 seems below the average price of the other prosumer cameras. So buy this camera if you care about quality and you're willing to pay for it. If you're happy enough with what the cheaper cameras produce, then I see no need to spend more for this camera. But if you do plan on shooting for VR headsets, or you're reframing your 360 videos and you want better quality, sharper shots, less noise, then yeah, absolutely, go for it. I wouldn't buy this camera just for the catchy social media effects. While you can do it and you've got access to the shot lab and all the other cool effects we've always had in the app, you can do that with the One X2 and the One RS. So is this the camera camera we've been waiting for? Well, I would say that, yeah, it's the camera I've been waiting for. Firstly, because I found it a bit frustrating over the past few years seeing the very small updates between Insta360 cameras rebranded, repackaged as a brand new 360 camera release when it was only a 10% upgrade at the most. Whereas here with the One RS 1-inch 360 edition, this is more like a 30% upgrade on what we had before. Have we been waiting for a 30% upgrade? Abso-freaking-lutely. But the second reason I think it's the camera we've been waiting for is, again, Insta360 are Insta360, and they like adding all of the best features of every other 360 camera out there into their camera. And that's what they've done here. They've taken the best 360 video features. They've taken the hardware components like the 1-inch sensors from the Z1. They've clearly studied the images, cameras, and workflows of their competitors, and they've put them all into one camera. While it doesn't flat out beat the Z1 for virtual tours, it comes close, while also offering a 6K 360 video camera with lots of amazing features and so many ways you can use this camera by disassembling and rebuilding. So if you were buying or upgrading your 360 camera in mid-2022 and you think you want to shoot 360 photo and 360 video equally, then in my opinion, this is a no-brainer. And no doubt it's going to get better and better over time with future firmware and software updates. So tell me, what are your thoughts on the Insta360 1-inch 360 edition? Do you like it? Would you consider buying it, or are you waiting for something else? Subscribe for more, and no doubt I'll be posting many more videos with this camera over the next year. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.